Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this CanDo Green Heat Retrofit Innovation Challenge webinar. My name is Tom Warren. I work with BEST, which is Built Environment Smarter Transformation. I'm going to pass you over to Moira Forsyth from Scottish Enterprise. She's an Innovation Systems Specialist. We have a chat function for questions, so please do post your questions as we go along, and then we'll come to a Q&A at the end of the presentation. So Moira, if you're ready, over to
you. Good afternoon, everybody. Show my screen. Bear with me till I get the tech working. It's good if you start at the start of your presentation. So good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for the introduction, Tom, and thank you to BEST for hosting this webinar this afternoon to give us another opportunity to discuss the Green Heat in Retrofit Challenge. And I'll apologise in advance because I know we've had over the last few months a number of opportunities to speak to a lot of people that are already on this call. So some of what I'm going to say this afternoon will be a bit of a repetition, but I don't think that will do any harm. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Moira Forsyth, and I sit within the Innovation Systems team within Scottish Enterprise. We are the team that delivers the Scotland CanDo innovation calls, of which this is one. So we've got a number of years experience in running these calls, and today we're here to talk about the Green Heat Retrofit Challenge. So just to set a little bit of kind of context for the call, this particular call has been designed to sit within a policy context, which is to deliver against Scottish Government's net zero social housing and economic development policies. We know that Scotland has around 800,000 social homes, of which 75% are of 8 archetypes. And the purpose of this call is to try and marry what's available within the private sector in Scotland with what's required by social landlords, whether that's around whole house or subsystem retrofit solutions, and to try and almost start to kind of create almost a kind of network and an ecosystem around what's available in the private sector and what's needed by social landlords. The call is part of a much wider Green Heat Innovation Support Programme, also known as GHISP. And this is a 17.6 million programme of wider projects, innovation support, and other kind of, smaller programmes that are hoping to unlock some of the barriers and address some of the challenges that Scotland has around decarbonising our buildings. So the retrofit call that we've now launched won't necessarily solve every single one of Scotland's retrofit challenges, but hopefully it will provide a means to unlock some of the barriers, which will then allow the retrofit programmes to flow from there. So we're looking to work with local authorities and registered social landlords and use the call to marry up with the private sector in terms of the companies that are out there that may potentially be able to support you to run your programmes either quicker, better, smarter, or any other way. We have to emphasise that it's only available for domestic social housing, so it's not for any other kind of public buildings. And the aim from a Scottish Enterprise solution perspective, because we are an economic development agency, is to grow the Scottish supply chain, so to allow Scottish private sector companies an opportunity to develop innovative products and services and therefore grow their businesses. So it's it's a simple process. We've already, as I mentioned, over the last few months and weeks, we've engaged through a variety of forums, Teams meetings, one-to-one calls. We've spoken to quite a number of local authorities and registered social landlords to help us shape this call to make sure that it is going to have the kind of outcomes that both you want and that meet the objectives of Scottish Enterprise in that kind of policy context that I mentioned earlier on. It's a two-phase process. We've just launched the call for phase 1, which we call the Alternative Solution Evaluation, which is basically feasibility calls. And I'll go into a little bit more detail about what that phase 1 is. But effectively, we will support up to 3 social landlords to procure 3 projects over a 3-month period, a lot of threes there, and we will support that through providing about up to £150,000 worth of funding to procure those 3 projects. At the end of phase 1, those 3 projects will be evaluated, and then we will hope to take forward 1 from each of the successful applications to a phase 2, which is basically taking that product to commercialisation and market ready stage. And again, there'll be a funding pot for each of those projects of up to £200,000. The aim of the whole of the call, the outcome that we're all looking for, is that the social landlord will then procure the solution if it is deemed to be fit for purpose. So phase 1, which is the call that we have open at the moment, and we're inviting applications in, we will contract with 3 selected suppliers, so that is local authorities or registered social landlords. And we will support those 3 organisations to then procure a further 3 organisations, so that's 3 organisations each, to run a 3-month feasibility project. Feasibility basically means that they have come up with an idea that potentially could provide a solution to your challenge. Each local authority that we contract with will be given £150,000, and that means that of the 3 feasibility projects they procure, up to £50,000, which is 100% funding, will go to each of those organisations. I have to caveat at this time that our funding will go 100% to each of the companies that are invited in to tender for the feasibility. So we are not in the position to support administration costs, staff, travel and subsistence, or any other costs that are incurred by the local authority or the RSL in running the feasibility calls. However, we do expect the landlords themselves to have the right team behind them to support the 3 companies, whether that's through access to data, to undertake surveys, or to give them access to buildings, etc. At the end of those 3-month projects, there will be another evaluation process. So we will support the social landlord to undertake another evaluation. And at the end of phase 1, we anticipate that at least one of those projects will look as if it has the right solution to meet that challenge. And we will then provide that second funding pot of up to £200,000 to then help that company to then take that product to market. And then at the end of phase 2, we would anticipate that there would be a commitment from the local authority or the RSL to then procure that solution. So it goes from feasibility right through to kind of market ready. So what's in scope for the challenge? Well, in terms of what your project can cover, it really is as broad as the day is long as far as retrofit programs goes. But just to give you a kind of flavour, it could be around fabric first. So this could be looking at internal or external insulation challenges. It could be looking at roofing systems, cladding, componentry. It could be about energy systems. So this is where the likes of heat transfer, district heating systems, air source heat pumps come into play. It could be about monitoring and service integration. And again, these are kind of more kind of softer challenges such as decanting tenants, etc., tenant well-being, or it could be around things like energy system management and control. So there's probably every aspect of your existing retrofit program will fit within one of these criteria. And as I mentioned at the start of the kind of presentation, we've identified, along with industry, as part of the consultation process, 8 archetypes. The challenge is not restricted to these 8 archetypes, but when we come on to discuss the scalability of your project, then it's highly likely that the scalability will fit within one of these kind of criteria. So just to summarise the first part, we are only accepting applications from Scottish local authorities and RSL, so in other words, not from the private sector. We will only accept applications around projects that are around domestic social housing, so it will not include local authority office buildings, swimming pools, or any other kind of other public buildings. It's only around domestic housing. And we are looking for R&D projects that clearly address the challenge brief. And again, we're going to come on to a little bit more about what we're looking for within each of the applications. So what does a good application look like? So again, only open to social housing landlords and domestic projects. The first criteria is that you have to be able to demonstrate that the product or service that you are looking to procure is not available in the open market at present. So you have to be able to demonstrate that you have a challenge, you've gone out to the marketplace to see if there's something suitable that you can buy off the shelf, and that it's readily not available. Now that means that it could be you're looking for an air source heat pump. There are plenty of air source heat pumps on the market, but none address the needs of the archetype that you're looking for. It could be around kind of cost benefit reasons or anything else, but that product is not available on the market at the moment. It has to be developed, and that's where the innovation comes in. Applications have to demonstrate that there's a wider market opportunity. So if you're looking at an application around a particular archetype, what we will be looking for you to demonstrate is the volume of that archetype. So if you're looking at a tenement block, how many of those tenement blocks are within your application area, but also does that archetype exist elsewhere in Scotland in terms of how many volumes are there, or potentially in the wider UK social housing market, or even kind of overseas, if you're able to tell us. And that's important because the companies that you will procure with, those 3 organisations, have to have line of sight to a bigger market, and we have to be able to have confidence that there's a bigger market beyond your local authority area. You have to also be able to demonstrate in your application that you have a team behind the project. And that includes procurement. You have to be able to show us that you have procurement processes in place that are able to procure innovation. And we will support you to do that. We will support you to go through that process. But you have to be able to show us that you have a team that has the ability to procure innovation. And you also have to show us that you have a team behind you that will support those 3 individual organisations, those 3 companies, to implement those 3-month feasibility projects. And that might be giving them support to give access to data. It might be supporting them to undertake kind of surveys, or it might be by giving them support to access buildings and potentially put prototype projects in place. It's also important for us to see that this particular challenge, whilst, as I say, it will not solve all of everyone's retrofit program challenges, we have to be able to see that it's part of an established retrofit program, and that therefore it will help you to implement your wider retrofit program, whether it helps to unlock major barriers to implementing the rest of the program, whether it will free up finance, etc., etc. But also, and just as importantly, that you as an organisation have the appetite, the ambition, and the ability to procure the final solution. So if we are successful, which we hope we will be, in developing a solution to your challenge, that you have the ability and the wherewithal to actually procure that solution. And that's important because it's obviously you're going to be the first customer for the company, and so that helps them to kind of demonstrate that the product works in situ. It's also important that you demonstrate to us what impact the solution will have on your programme. Apologies if you can hear the dogs barking. On your organisations, or even on the well-being of your tenants, whether that's financially, from a project management perspective, or from a well-being perspective. So the timeline that we are working to, the call is obviously now open. It opened on Monday the 22nd of January. It closes on noon at noon on the 1st of March, and that's a backstop. We will not be in a position to accept any applications after 12 p.m. on the 1st of March. There will be an evaluation process, and again, we're going to do a little survey today just to get a flavour and an idea of how many organisations intend to submit an application and what those application areas are going to be around. But once we've received all the applications in, we will do a little filtering process and evaluation process. And out of all of the applications, we hope to be able to invite in 6, potentially 7 organisations into a pitch session on the 20th of March. And that pitch session will give you an opportunity to just explain your project, your challenge, your team, etc., and just give a bit more background to your application in a face-to-face session, and also give us an opportunity to ask any questions that may have come out of the first phase of the evaluation process. Following those pitch sessions, we will then narrow it down even further, and we will be able to announce the 3 successful organisations that have managed to secure the funding by close of play on the 25th of March. We then go into a contracting period, so we will issue and exchange legal contracts. That should hopefully be completed by the 10th of May. And then your procurement process will begin around the kind of June period. Now, I have to caveat this with, these are indicative dates. We may be able to procure a contract with you quicker. You may be able to start your procurement process quicker. But this list just gives us an idea of the kind of the rough timescales that we're working to. So once your procurement process has begun, and again, we will support you in that procurement process, we anticipate phase 1 projects will run for a 3-month period from approximately July. At the end of that phase 1 period, there will be, as I say, this evaluation process. We'll support you to evaluate your 3 projects, and then out of that, you will select one of those organisations to take forward to phase 2, which will then probably commence early 2025. So that gives you a flavour of the timescales that we're running to. So very, very simple process. And again, these links were all going to be shared with you. Download the application form for the challenge page on Scottish Enterprise, complete your application and get your applications into our inquiries at scotent.co.uk email address by 12 noon on the 1st of March. Also have to mention here that we will accept multiple applications from individual applicants, but those applications have to be around distinct projects. So we will not accept 2 applications from an applicant around air source heat pumps. They have to be about very distinct projects and will be evaluated as distinct projects. Also want to mention at this point another couple of upcoming events for your diary. We have just completed a green heat feasibility call. So we have supported 16 Scottish companies to run 3-month feasibility projects. Those 16 companies are going to be presenting an all-day event Wednesday the 28th of February at the Technology and Innovation Centre, which is part of the University of Strathclyde in Glasgow. Those 16 companies are going to present the outcomes from those 3-month feasibility projects. And this is an open invitation to everybody on this call to come along to take part in that showcase event. It would be of use to you to come along to that event, partly because if you're one of the successful organisations that we then contract with, there may be companies that we've already been engaging with that may be applicable for you to tender with, or at least invite into tender when you get to procure your innovation. But even out with the retrofit call, there might be organisations that you'd be interested to speak to as part of your wider retrofit programme. So if you're able yourself or one of your team to come along to that showcase event, then please, if you haven't already, register now, because I think we are very nearly at a kind of a sellout kind of stage. There's also another event on the 27th of March, Clean Heat 24, another all-day event. And that's where there will be a range of speakers from Scottish Government, from our universities and knowledge base, as well as the kind of private sector as well, all of whom are, presenting on opportunities and innovations around decarbonising our buildings. So again, as part of the retrofit programme, but also as part of your wider retrofit ambitions, it would be useful for you and to widen your networks to kind of come along to either or both of those events. So wanted to make sure that we had plenty of time for questions and answers, as I'm sure you have to, because I've just given a lot of information to you. This is the team that is delivering the retrofit call, Terry Hogg, Morag Clark, who's on this call, myself, and Hannah Fleming, who is also on this webinar today. So I'll hand back to Tom and the team just to open it up to any questions. And I also have to say that if there's anything that I can't answer today, then I'll make it a commitment to go away and find the answer and come back to you after the webinar. Okay.
Thank you, Moira. Thanks for the excellent presentation. I can't see any questions on the chat, so I don't know if anyone wants to add any now who's on the call, or maybe we'll go to the poll while we're waiting on that one. So you should have a quick poll appeared on your screen if you can select one of the 2 answers. So we'll just give that a minute or two and then we'll move on. So that's great. So on those who are on the call today, looks like the majority of you are planning to apply. So that's fantastic. And the second poll here. So this is just to select one answer. So your primary focus. So there's a couple of strong contenders there in terms of fabric and then energy systems in the lead. So we've got, Moira, we've got one question I can put to you. So the question is, can a local authority work with a social landlord or two social landlords work together? So either of those kind of configurations.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, we're more than open to kind of collaborative applications, if that makes sense. And yes, but I would suggest that one of those organisations takes the lead, if that makes sense. So it could be the social landlord or one with the local authority, but make it very, very clear in your application that this is a collaborative application. One of the things that I should also mention is that if we have a strong application in from a local authority or an RSL, and then another application comes in potentially from someone who maybe doesn't have such a strong team behind them, then we will be trying to kind of match them up and make sure that the weaker application is matched with the stronger applicant, if that makes sense. So again, we can kind of foster these kind of collaborations. No, that would be ideal to see that kind of thing coming forward. Absolutely.
Thanks. Got another question, well, more of a statement as just a reminder that there's a LinkedIn group for those considering an application. So this is a space where, you know, obviously you can't see who else is online here, but that's a platform which allows you to have those collaborative conversations to build partnerships for joint applications. So I think the LinkedIn group can be shared with follow-up information. That's the best way to go with that one. So thanks for sharing that one.
Absolutely. What it might be worthwhile while people are considering their questions is also mentioning that we have just launched, my colleague Morag Clark has just launched a pre-market consultation. So we've through Public Contracts Scotland, we're trying to identify a wider kind of cohort of organisations that have the capability to meet some of these retrofit challenges that we anticipate coming in. So we're, as I say, trying to use this process to kind of matchmake between private sector organisations that are out there and public sector organisations that need support to meet their challenges. So there's a number of other things going on in the background as well to try and support this process.
Absolutely. And Best's very happy to be part of that, both supporting Scottish Enterprise in this way and you know, hopefully further down the line. And if anyone wants to get in touch with us to maybe sense check what, you know, if there's a, you know, where the gaps in the market are, if you think that there's something you need and maybe you're not sure if there is an existing provision, you know, we've got a good oversight of that through our own retrofit team. So that's maybe an option there as well. Another question, Moira. How do new product suppliers make themselves aware to local authorities and to, you know, to applicants through this fund?
Yeah, I would say take part in the pre-market consultation and make and that's how we're going to become aware of organisations that are in the private sector that we are currently that are not within our sites or on our radar. So yeah, complete pre-market consultation. Absolutely.
Okay, well, I think that's the end of our questions from the audience today. Obviously, you guys have done good work in the background in terms of individual discussions. So yeah, all clear. obviously there will be a follow-up to this for those who've registered, so that there's opportunities to get in touch if there's something you didn't have time or didn't want to ask today. So again, just like to thank you, Moira and team, on behalf of Best, and for all of the audience online. Thanks for your time. Moira, anything else to add in summing up?
No, I would just encourage everybody to go away, consider your application if you haven't already, pull a team together and then come forward.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.